Hello everybody, welcome along to another exciting installment of Sport Like It Is. We've had a bit of a hiatus and I have next to me our latest addition. Ben has decided to stay away from the crew today. He's been bounced, so to speak, pulling a Joan Smith. So we have Richard Maspero, ultimate sports journalist, sent back through time from the future to save the world from average sports journalism. Richard Maspero, welcome to the crew.
Thanks very much. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me along.
Awesome to have you on board. We're going to talk a little bit today about the Springboks squad announcement, which was from a couple of days ago. Of course, New Zealand bringing a weakened side out here. Not too sure that it looks too weak to me. It looks pretty outrageous. Lots of exciting talent in that side. And Ben will be back in due course. But today, Richard is with me and he's on board going forward. So nice to have you, bud. Let's start off by talking a little bit about the Springbok side. There's uncertainty at 15. We've seen Francois Steyn has pulled a hamstring and Pat Lambie's been brought in this week. What are your thoughts there in terms of his progression and obviously investing in him in the future?
I think Lambie for the future is a good bet. The problem that I have now is a little bit untried and untested, and that worries me heading into the World Cup, to have a guy like that who can be brilliant on his day but who is vastly inexperienced and can run into problems. It is better though than having Morné Steyn at fullback. I think a lot of people would rather see him at fly half than at fullback, but Lambie for the most part I cannot see him as a suitable replacement for Francois Steyn at the moment. For my money, I'd have Francois Steyn in the team any day of the week.
Exactly. He's kind of got the X factor, which is something that we've lacked for a while. We've got a great centre pairing of Jean de Villiers and Jacques Fourie, who many are saying are basically our entire success hinges on those two, and perhaps Fourie du Preez, who didn't have his best game the other day either. They were shocking in Durban.
Yeah, they were. It was such a disappointing game to see the way the guys played. I think a lot of fans would have hoped that, with the majority of the experienced players back in the side, that we would have seen a better performance from the Boks. And fair enough, they were great for the first half, and the guys looked a whole lot better than we had seen down under. But for the rest of it, I don't know, just a very disappointing performance from the Boks, and I think we're going to struggle going forward from here on in. I just hope that we can turn it around quick enough heading into the World Cup.
Just like to quickly point out before we go forward that Richard has a resting heart rate of 37 beats per minute. So I'm told anyway, and his golf swing is as good as any I've seen. Well, mine is pretty horrendous. So anyways, Richard, moving forward, this New Zealand side is looking exciting, to say the least. We've got Colin Slade starting, as the New Zealanders say, and I know Johnny King will appreciate this, first 5'8", I hope I pronounced that correctly. But he's starting at 10 this weekend, Highlanders player. Hasn't played much before, and he's young, he's quite small and inexperienced. But obviously with Dan Carter having a nightmare in that 2007 quarter-final against France, pulling a calf and having to go off, and I think it was Luke McAllister that came on at 10. He's there now, massive test for him. But it's a real opportunity for him to show that, again, he's the right guy to come in should something happen to DC.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dan Carter, without a doubt, is #1 choice for the All Blacks. I mean, he'll play every single game, barring him pulling a hamstring or doing something silly. So I think to get a guy like that into the side, a good option for them. There's a lot of talk about Stephen Brett. You mentioned Luke McAllister as well, Stephen Donald. There's a lot of players out there that could possibly fill in the replacement role. But for my part, I like the look of that All Black side at the moment. There's a lot of attacking potential for them, and I think that's the most interesting thing about the All Blacks at the moment, is the way they are attacking. They're scoring tries. It's free-flowing rugby, and they're just looking very good at the moment.
But the word choke always comes up. It's quite funny because everybody always says that they peak for the right time and they peak for the World Cup. They're always good, the All Blacks, dude. They are literally... I mean, look at their centre pairing this week. I mean, that is as exhilarating as I've ever seen. We've got old Richard Kahui playing at outside centre, obviously with the Chiefs. He's been around for a couple of years now. And Sonny Bill Williams, who had an outrageous season this year. But there's been talk about him moving up north to Auckland. But that's really exciting. Thoughts there going forward? Obviously, they have Conrad Smith, who's not in this week. And there's loads and loads of cover in the midfield, which bodes well for them.
That's the potential for them. I mean, they've got so many options for them available in midfield that it's just unbelievable, the glut of talent that they've got in New Zealand rugby at the moment. Sonny Bill Williams has really been a phenomenon for them this season. There's been a lot of talk about his move, as you said, whether he's going to be going up north. Heard a lot of talk that he would be staying with the Crusaders. There's been a lot of little extra bits and pieces that they've added to his contract. The boxing thing has come up. He does like that. that's been one of the things that they've worked into his contract. So they're really doing a lot to try and make sure that he does stay put, that he does stay in New Zealand, and that he is available to them in the future.
Jake White wrote on his website, rugby15.co.za, I was reading today, he thinks that the Springboks are unfit. Now, they've spent weeks in conditioning training camps, and I agree that coming back into that game in Durban last week with all these guys that have supposedly been taking a break from rugby, you would have thought that they would have been chomping at the bit to get back and get involved. But Jake White's saying they look unfit, they look out of shape, and he harps back to 2007. He says that the shape of the players back then was so different to what they are looking like now. They're looking lumpy. And he pinpointed Brian Habana for being out of position for Pat McCabe's try last week. What did you make of that try? Did you think we just lacked cover? Do you think that we didn't read the backline move as it came out from Cooper, spread it down quickly? Or do you think it was just a moment of brilliance from Australia and we just couldn't respond to it?
I think just a combination of all factors. I mean, it was a great try, and it did catch the box napping to a certain extent. And I don't know if it's really fair to pinpoint one player and pinpoint Habana. The defence is a concern for the Springboks at the moment. We saw how good the defence was in the World Cup in 2007, and that's really been one of the things that the Boks have prided themselves on, is the way they are defending. At the moment, it's looking a little porous, and that's cause for concern. We've had Jacques Nieuwenhuizen, who's been pulled in as a defensive assistant there. He's trying to right things. He's done well with Province, and that's the way they're trying to sort it out. But at the moment, there's just a little bit of concern as to whether the Boks are working as a defensive unit. And let's be fair and stand up for them and defend them for a bit. It's difficult when the team is changing each week. You get used to playing next to certain guys. You get used to certain defensive patterns, and if you can trust the guy who's outside of you and inside of you, it makes life a lot easier. But at the moment, changes, uncertainty, hesitation, that's all being exploited by some very good sides at the moment. We've got
Morné Steyn back at 10 this week, which is interesting in itself because Butch James didn't have such a bad game last week and he's been demoted to the bench. Now, Morné Steyn has always been the type of player, and like many fly halves, when the scrum is dominating and he's got go forward ball, he looks fantastic. He's got a great kicking record, and World Cups, as we know, are often won on kicking and defence. Do you think that he's in the right frame of mind going forward? Based on his recent performances, he hasn't been too good, lacking confidence. Do you think they should have stuck with Butch James this week, or are they simply trying to give as many guys as much game time as possible and make a decision closer to the World Cup?
I think, in essence, Peter de Villiers has probably made up his mind. If he hasn't by now, we should be seriously concerned.
And we are concerned as it is.
For my money, though, Butch James, I reckon he's the guy to do it for us at the World Cup. Morné Steyn last year, yes, if the World Cup was being played 12 months ago, would have had no hassles with him going to the tournament as the #1 fly half. But now, a bit of a tricky Super Rugby season. The Bulls struggled and he struggled behind a pack that wasn't doing well. The Springbok pack at the moment is also struggling and he's not finding life very easy. So for me, Butch James, who's been in that position before, he's done it before for South Africa. Fair enough, he has been out of the country for a while and is working his way back into the system here. But for my money, I'd have Butch James there at fly half. I think he just adds a lot more for us. His kicking games come on in leaps and bounds. His defence, I suppose the high tackle issue might come into question, whether he's going to clothesline somebody and give away a needless penalty. Exactly. But, for that being said, defensively he is solid. His kicking game is good. His distribution is good. I'd rather have him there than Morné Steyn. But for Morné Steyn, great kicker at posts. He does offer you that option. If he's not there, then you've got James and Steyn, possibly if he's fit, sharing the kicking duties.
Port Elizabeth about to host its first test match this weekend, which we're all excited about, and apparently the vibe in PE is immense this week. It's a pretty slow city as it is, much like Cape Town, so I'm sure that they're taking a few days off work, sneaking one here and there. Momentum massive. We need the Springboks to win this weekend. We need to get behind them, and hindsight's always been the perfect form of sight. So let's hope that we're not looking back and saying we should have made this decision, we should have made this decision. Let's hope that this weekend we go out and we beat a weakened All Black side, a second string All Black side, and we do so convincingly. At Ed Sellier on Twitter, at Richard Maspero, the man who's joined us, the man who was sent back through time to save the world from average sports journalism, and hashtag SLII. We'll get to your questions in due course. We're going to have another post a little bit later on, which will be dedicated to all that, and hopefully Ben will re-emerge from the copywriting world at some point.
Eventually.
Hope so. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.